All right. Well, is everyone excited for Competitive Edge? It's okay to say yes.
I am very excited.
I can tell everyone's so excited.
I mean, I also already did it, so.
Yes, but we're still excited to be here today, right? Um, so thank you for giving up part of your Saturday to be at this webinar about Competitive Edge. Competitive Edge is the OG of the Edge programs. And so we're really excited. It recently got a revamp. And so we want to be able to this morning provide an overview of the various components of the new Competitive Edge. And we also want to hopefully, if you've not yet already done Competitive Edge, convince you why completing Competitive Edge is important, because this is tremendously valuable programming. But before we get started into the content, I want to do a few introductions. I am Professor Mary Linder. I get the privilege of serving as the Texas Regional Coordinator. And so I get to work with all 92 chapters in the Great Texas region. And so this is, even though it's very early in the morning, it is exciting to be able to be with you this morning. I also have Dr. Jessica Hargis, who serves as my partner in crime as the Associate Regional Coordinator of the Texas region. And when we're together, we're usually plotting something really good, not bad, really good for the Texas region. We also have several of our Texas regional officers, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I think we'll start with Caitlin, our regional president.
Hi guys, I'm Caitlin, the Texas Regional President, and I'm super excited to see you all. I'm glad y'all are all here.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin.
Hello everyone, my name is Conwin and I am the D4 Vice President of District 4, and I'm glad to see you guys over here to attend our another Competitive Edge webinar of the region.
All right. And Garrett?
Hi, I'm Garrett. I'm the District 2 Vice President for the Texas region, and I'm kind of here to assist them along the way.
That's right. So we'll go ahead and get started now that you had the opportunity here. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Hargis is going to help me watch the waiting room, because I'm notorious for just leaving people in waiting room purgatory once the once the presentation gets started. And apparently that might be a bad thing. But as I said, Competitive Edge is the OG of the Edge programs. In addition to Competitive Edge, headquarters has rolled out Transfer Edge, right, to teach you how to transfer, has rolled out Employment Edge, teach you how to get a job. That sounds pretty important. And also Research Edge, that gives you important research skills that you can employ in honors and action programs as well as in your courses. But we're focusing today on the Competitive Edge portion of the Edge programs. This is a really valuable professional development program. And I will tell you, one of the things that we constantly hear from employers is that when they are looking for people to hire, especially when they're coming right out of college, is that they're like, you know, their credentials look great. They've done all this coursework. We know that they know the content, right, for their degree, but what's missing are the soft skills. And I think that we don't always stop and really appreciate how important those soft skills are. You can know everything in the world about engineering, for example, but if you can't properly communicate on teams, between departments, with clients, then you're not going to be very effective in your job. And so Competitive Edge is designed to help you with that very important soft skill development. And this is stuff that's going to help you now while you are still in college, and it's going to help you in the future as you transition into your careers. And, you know, one of the great things about your Phi Theta Kappa membership is it is a lifetime membership. And so you will always have access. As they continue to develop and revamp Competitive Edge, because they will, then you're always going to have access, so you can get in there and grow your skill set, and you can improve, and become better in all these different areas all the time. I obviously have been, in case you didn't know, I'm about 8,000 years old. So I've obviously been teaching for a while, I've been working in my career for a while. And when I was going through competitive edge, because I can always learn things and it's important to try to learn and grow all the time, I found things very important. Some were reminders, because sometimes we just need reminders of things, and some were new ways of looking at different skill sets. And so it's very valuable to you no matter where you are in your life. Now, when it comes to getting started, there are two ways that you can access competitive edge. So you can either go directly to getanedge.ptk.org and you'll be right in with your EDGE programs, or you can just go to ptk.org and you go to the members section, scroll down to programs, and you'll find all the EDGE programs listed there. But when you get to the competitive EDGE section, you will need to enroll in the course. Now it's really easy. You just click the blue button that says enroll me, and that's really all it's going to be. I like when things are easy, especially when it comes to technology, because I'm very well known for kind of blowing up technology at times. And so you just click the enroll me and then you're in. It's that simple. And so when you first enter competitive edge, then you will see this screen. And so you see that lovely little start here. I like when things are labeled well. You have to start there. There is no choice but to start there. And so I know that sometimes students are a little eager. I see this when I give exams. They just skip the directions and launch right into the test itself. So I'm that person that puts bonus points in the directions so I can see who actually reads them. Don't tell my students. But you can't skip the directions here. They don't let you. Nothing else will open in the competitive edge courseware until you work through this start here section. And it's, I know sometimes we just want to jump right in, but we need to get in the habit of reading directions because there's important information in there. And so we're going to kind of take a stroll through some of the highlights here of what you'll see. So it will lay out the basic structure of competitive edge. And so competitive edge is made up of 5 different modules, and each one of them is designed to address a different set of soft skill development. And so thinking skills, we are an honor society, so hopefully we're always trying to reinforce the various elements of our thinking, right? Emotional intelligence, tremendously important. And I think that when you look at a few of these things, and as we kind of look at the programming a little deeper here as we continue, you'll see that in the revamp that Phi Theta Kappa was very intentional in looking at the needs today. And I think that's one of the great things about revamping this courseware is they're making it very relevant for the time period in which we're in. And there is a lot of discussion about emotional intelligence. It's tremendously important. And so I'm really glad to see it here in our competitive edge programming. Communication skills, can't get around it. You're gonna have to be able to communicate. You will always be working with people your entire life. And I know sometimes that's, oh my gosh, I hear it all the time when you say things in classes like, guess what? You have a group project. And then there's a collective sigh in the class. Any of you ever feel that way? I know you do. So I get it, but life is going to be one big group project. You are always going to be working with people. And so you're going to have to be able to communicate. And of course, collaborate, right? Goes along with that. And then we have important professionalism. I was really happy to see this because I think that when we're teaching our classes and you're going through all the classes required for your degree, we don't necessarily emphasize things like professionalism, but it's important if you're going to get and keep a job. And so I was really glad to see that be added as well. So when you are going through the competitive edge course itself, as I said, there are those 5 modules. And we're going to look at them more closely here in a minute, but you can complete those modules in any order that you want. So when you first go into competitive edge, once you do that start here section, because you have to, the first module is think. And so you can start with, if you're a very linear person, you can start with that first module, work your way down, right? I'm going to start with think. and then I'm going to move down. I think grow is after that. So you can do that. You can just move straight down the list, or maybe you're like, I'm going to be a little wild here, right? And you want to start at the very end. Then you can do that too. It doesn't matter the order in which you complete the modules. When you do start a module, however, you have to complete all of the activities in that module before the quiz will open. Now, it doesn't matter the order in which you complete the activities within a module either. So again, you can be very linear and go top to bottom, or you can go bottom to top or start in the middle, whichever way you want. It doesn't matter, but you do have to complete all of those activities in a module before the quiz will unlock, and the level that the particular module is not complete until all the activities and the quiz are completed. Does that make sense? Right? So it gives you a little flexibility. You know, maybe when you get in there, you're like, I want to start with grow today. That's the way I'm feeling. Then you can certainly do that. It gives you, in this newer version, a little more flexibility in completing it. The old version, you had to move kind of top to bottom. There was no choice in it, but this does let you hop around, which I think sometimes is a good thing, because maybe we're just really drawn to something on a particular day when we're working on it, and so it allows us to have a little more flexibility there. All right, as you complete each module, then you will earn a digital badge. Now, we'll tell you that the badge will come in your email. Obviously, it's a digital badge. It will come in your email, and that will go to the email that is linked to your Phi Theta Kappa account itself, right? Your login to the Phi Theta Kappa website. So I say this because sometimes we have a lot of email addresses, and so we have a tendency to be like, this is the email I'm using, right? When you first sign up for Phi Theta Kappa, and then you forget that was the email maybe. And so you don't monitor that. Like, you remember it when you're logging in, but you don't remember that your stuff is gonna go there. And you're like, I never got my badge. I hear this sometimes from my chapter members. I'm like, what email do you use when you log in? They're like, oh, I guess I should check that, huh? Yes. So it is gonna go to that email address. It isn't instantaneous, so it's not like, okay, I completed the Think module, it's been 2 minutes, where's my digital badge? It doesn't work like that. Typically, when I was going through it, I think I got them like the next day. I think there was one module where I got it like 2 days later, something wonky happened, and it could have just been just the email. Sometimes little things happen, right? But you do get it pretty shortly after you complete it. It's just not going to be instantaneous. But don't just trash these emails. If you have like a LinkedIn, and I hope you do, but if you have like a LinkedIn, you can put all your digital badges in there. I let my LinkedIn get a little outdated, so I've been on this journey of revamping it, so I don't have to go through this again. I'm making a commitment that I'm going to keep it updated, but I did go and add all my digital badges in there. And it's a really great way when potential employers are looking at your skills, then they can see that you have done training in these various skill areas. And so I really recommend that you put those digital badges in your LinkedIn. So don't just trash those emails. And then when you finish all 5, then you will be Competitive Edge complete. You'll get a nice little email that says so, and it's lovely. And you feel really accomplished. But you will also have the opportunity at that point to purchase a Competitive Edge pin if you would like. Now, I will say this. If you're a Texas member, don't buy your pin. Save that money, because the Texas region likes to reward all of our completers, and we purchase your pin for you. At each one of our 3 conferences that we hold regionally every year, we recognize our most recent Competitive Edge completers. And when we're face-to-face, we give you your pin right there. If you're not at that conference, we give it to your advisor. But now, because we are meeting virtually, I put those in the mail for you. And so it will come directly to your address, the address you have listed in the Phi Theta Kappa system. So just like with the email address, okay, if that is not your current email or your current physical address that you are using, please go and update your address in the system, because we want to make sure that your pin gets to the right place. We don't want it to be 3 apartments ago or something like that. So please make sure that you do update your address in the Phi Theta Kappa system. So you may want to verify that it is correct, but we will mail your pins to you. So we have our next conference coming up in 2 weeks, and that will be the Texas Leadership Conference. By the way, if you've not yet registered to attend the Texas Leadership Conference, there is still time. Monday is the deadline. But if you complete Competitive Edge by October 9th, which is Friday, then you will be recognized at the Texas Leadership Conference, and you will get your lovely pin in the mail, courtesy of the Texas region, free of charge. So don't buy your pin. Complete by the 9th, and it is perfectly possible, without killing yourself even, to complete Competitive Edge by the 9th. You can do this all in one day if you want to. I did 4 of the modules in one day. I could have done all 5, but I'd started, whatever. But it's perfectly possible. Or if you want to spread it out because you have things to do like study, work, life, then do a module today and do a module on Sunday and do one on Monday, right? Like do one a day, and it's not going to take you very long, and you'll finish by Friday. And then you will be recognized and receive your pin in the mail, again, courtesy of the Texas region, because we want to reward our hardworking members who are trying to grow and learn and develop themselves and develop their soft skills. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I've covered so far? Or if I have any of the ROs or Dr. Hargis who want to jump in here before I get in the details of the modules themselves.
I know that I was trying to get it all done in one day, but some of the stuff is just really interesting. And so at first I was like, I'm just gonna kind of flip through it just to finish it off. And I knew the answers, but for me, a lot of times the perspective is really good for when I'm in class, because I have a tendency to I have some weird tics that I didn't realize that somebody could take a different way. And so it was really helpful, especially the communication in other areas where we're more virtual. So I went really slow. I'm still working on it. I have not completed everything yet, but that's my goal for today. Got a babysitter and everything. So just know that it really is self-paced, and just so much good information that I've been enjoying I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
Is it possible to go back if like I kind of skim through something and then later on I'm like, okay, I should have actually given that more depth?
Yes, and that's a great question. I'm glad that you asked that. Because your membership is lifetime, right? And you have access to all of this, then yeah, you can always go back. And I think that that's really valuable, because sometimes maybe we went through it and we're like, we're good, but then something happens in life where we're like, maybe I need to go back and kind of take a look at something, right? Because there's that communication section. And so maybe you're getting ready to do a presentation and you're like, I'm going to revisit this before I create this presentation, just to make sure that I'm kind of following some best practices, right? That I'm doing things well. And so you can always go back and revisit any of this programming at any time. Another thing is that, so Phi Theta Kappa has built these activities for you in each module, and some of them have some external sources that they've linked. So some kind of assessment things for some self-assessment and reflection, some different activities that are external that you don't have to complete in order to complete Competitive Edge, but they're there and linked for you as a resource so that you can grow and develop further. And so maybe when you're going through, you're like, I really don't have time to do this particular external thing right now. I'm just going to finish the programming that's here. And then later, maybe like winter break, when I have a little free time, then I'm like, I'm going to go back and do that thing, right? And so you can always go back and do the extra stuff or revisit anything at any time. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive in to the modules themselves. And so the first one, you'll see I've labeled them 1 through 5, but remember, you can complete them in any order, right? So the first one that you will see is Think. And what you will see is this exact screen. I screenshot everything before I started a module, so you'd see what it looked like at the beginning. And so you have several activities here: critical thinking, analytical thinking, or creative thinking, right? So you see these activities, and you can do them in any order. So you can start with critical thinking, or you can start with diversity. Doesn't matter. You can start in the middle, critical reading and critical writing. You can do those activities in any order. Nothing is locked for you there, but you do see that the quiz is grayed out, right? Because you can't access the quiz until you have completed all of the activities. And so if you start there with critical thinking, you'll work your way through that activity. And then once you finish it, when you come back to the screen, there'll be a little check in the box showing you that that one's done. And so if you do spread this out over time, you don't have to worry about, wait, did I do that thing? It will tell you once something is done. And then once all of those boxes are checked, then the quiz will be accessible, and you will take the quiz and you have to pass it. Sorry, no, you do have to pass it in order to complete the level. But the good thing is, if you miss questions and don't pass it, or if you're a perfectionist and miss a question and decide, no, I want to make sure I get it all, you can take the quiz as many times as you want to. So it's not like it's a one-shot thing. You can take the quiz over and over again until you get the score you need or desire, and then move on to the next module. So I really appreciate the Think module because I find that critical thinking is an area where many people struggle. And so I think it is an important thing for us to continue to work on, and to in an important area in which we need to grow. But I like that they're addressing it from not only kind of just thinking in general, but they're looking at different types of thinking. They're talking about how you apply these things to reading and writing. It's a really inclusive approach to thinking itself. And kind of speaking of inclusivity, though in a different way, you will see as we go through these, in every single module, they are including an element of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is extremely important, particularly today, what is going on in our world. And so I'm really happy to see that Phi Theta Kappa has woven that in. The Texas region is the most diverse region in the entire society. And that's a blessing. We have a lot of strength because of that diversity. And so it's really nice to see this diversity element being included in Competitive Edge, so that we can explore the topic and be more aware of things. So I was really excited to see that be included. Does anybody have anything else they want to add on the Think module before we go to the next one? Just me that's the talker today.
I think you covered all the important part of this module for the audience to see how important it is for them to complete it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you.
I just wish every one of my students was able to do this one, because it was really good. And it's a lot of the questions that I get from students, like, what are you looking for in this paper? I mean, just some basic things that really help you go that extra mile. So
absolutely.
For students, it's really good.
Yeah. And I appreciated, like I said, like critical thinking is something that's really important to me, but I appreciated that they included discussions and development about other types of thinking, because I think that helps us to understand each other better, and when we need to apply certain types of thinking versus others. So I really liked that approach to that particular module. So the second module is Grow. And so you'll see here that it covers self-esteem and assertiveness. It also includes imposter syndrome. I was really happy to see this be included here, because Phi Theta Kappans in particular tend to fall into that imposter syndrome. And so I think it's important to have that here so that we can kind of self-reflect, right, about that. And so I really appreciated that. Mental health, touching on that emotional wellness, 2020 in particular, I think is really important. But like I said, these are always things that you can go back to, right? So you go through it now and you're like, okay, I'm good, but maybe you need to revisit it later to equip yourself with some tools, right? And so you can always revisit any of these things as you need to or want to. I will tell you, as much as I love kind of everything in this level, Time management is something that I am particularly passionate about. Anyone who spends any time with me for any amount of time with me actually gets to learn that about me very, very quickly, that I love me some time management. And so we actually are, I'm gonna do a little commercial here, if you will, for a moment. We are having a time management workshop, and that is going to be on October 15th at 4 p.m. You'll see stuff on social media about it very soon. And so I recommend that you spread the word and that you attend and get everybody to attend who can, because time management is something that we can always learn to do better. It is something where we can always improve our skill set. For all of the ways that I think I do have a strength in time management, I always know that I can learn and grow and do better. And so I really recommend that you pay attention in Competitive Edge to that section, and then you come to the workshop on October 15th so that we can grow that a little bit more. And then again, you're going to see diversity, right? You're going to see another aspect of that being included in this particular module. Anybody want to add anything to the Grow module?
I will say this module, and it's going to come into play a lot in this next module that they're going to be talking about, and y'all will see what I'm talking about. But the self-esteem and assertiveness is going to kind of play into some of the stuff that's going to be in this next module coming up, and I'll talk more about it then if you give me the chance.
Yeah.
But it helped me out a lot looking at some of these self-esteem and assertiveness things, and talking about the difference between being like aggressive and being assertive. And it puts me at ease, because sometimes you get in a situation you're like, I don't want to like be an aggressive person. I don't want them to be afraid of me. I just want to be like, hey, this is how it needs to be, not hey, you have to do this because I'm mad at you, kind of thing.
No, you're right. That's important it's important on any team. It's certainly important for leaders to make sure that they're being received the way they intend, right? So that's really, I agree. I think it's really important. Awesome. Okay, so here we have connecting, right? So you'll see that there is a great emphasis on communication. I talked about this before. Communication is tremendously important. And so I appreciated once again that they are addressing different elements of communication here. And so you get some general communication things, but then you get into presentations, right? So if you're needing to do a presentation for class, maybe you're presenting a workshop somewhere, then this is going to help you with that. And you can always come back and revisit it if you need to before you develop those and give those presentations. It includes about speech anxiety. I know a lot of people have speech anxiety. I was not born with that particular gene. I just wasn't. And so it's really funny. One of our members of the Texas leadership team, Dr. Molly Harris, she serves as the comptroller and advisor to the Texas region. She's also my co-advisor at the Omicron Side Chapter. But she's a speech professor. That was her job before she became dean at our institution. And so she's really great to work with our students in our chapter, work with the regional officers on anything related to giving speeches, because she has training and an understanding of speech anxiety. And because I never really experienced that, I'm the person who like, just get up there and say it. Like, what's the big deal? Like, I am not the coach on this because I don't know how to coach that, because I can't understand in the same way because I never experienced that, right? And so it's really good. I liked going through this because it helped me understand a little bit better and learn from an advisor or instructor perspective how I can better coach students who are facing speech anxiety. I think for any who might suffer from that, and it's actually most people who do suffer from that, you're not the oddball if you have speech anxiety. I'm the oddball. I'm okay. I've been the oddball my whole life. And so I think it is really good to help with that, to give you some tools and a better understanding of that speech anxiety, how to put together a good speech and all of those things. Also, it included body language and active listening. a lot of times when we think about communication, we're thinking about it from a perspective of the words we say or the words we write, but that's a very small part of communication. Your facial expressions, your body language, that's a big part of communication. And so, I mean, think about it. Have you ever read a text message, let's say, for example, and you're like, ooh, why are they being so snarky with me? But if you were to hear somebody say that and they had a very different facial expression, it would have a very different meaning to you, right? So it's really important to understand that part of communication. And then listening, huge part of communication. So you have to actively listen in order to be a good communicator as well. So really like seeing all of that. And of course, you're going to see another element of diversity, unconscious bias, so important, and is a big cause of a lot of the issues that we see going on in our society. So really happy to see that being focused on in this particular module. All right, Garrett, did you want to add on now?
I mean, you really did cover it really well, but especially that big speech anxiety part is, you know, it's all about that. The self-esteem part plays into this, and being able to be like, you know, I got this and I can do this, but also it goes a lot more in depth with that speech anxiety, and it's talking about, I think my favorite thing was sometimes it's easier to, instead of suppress the being anxious, it's easier to turn it into, hey, I'm excited. It's the same kind of energy, and you've got to turn it into being excited rather than just being like, no, I can't feel anything at all, because that's overall kind of like a not healthy mental thing anyways. But being able to turn your anxiety into excitedness, something very important, and it's definitely helping me out a lot, looking at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, one of the things that I often say, so I'll add her. I know she's not here, but she readily shares this, so I don't mind sharing it as well. So Lavada Burst, right, our international president, she is from my chapter. And so she will always tell you that she's a very nervous speaker. As many times as she has given presentations and speeches, and for as many different audiences that she has done them for, she still gets nervous. But she has, because she has really been intentional about trying to grow in this area, she has learned to change that nervousness, right? That anxiety into something positive. Because I've always told her, like, you get nervous because you care, right? I mean, it's true, because you want to do well for your audience, you know, you care about the situation. And so she has learned to really transition that into that positive energy to build excitement going into it. And so, it really is about equipping yourself with that tool to be able to do that. And you have to learn it. It's not an instantaneous thing. But I will say that the best way to learn it is to have experience at it. And so it makes you a little vulnerable, right, to put yourself out there. But you'll be amazed at how much you will grow by just having those opportunities and taking advantage of those opportunities. Anybody else have anything they want to add on the Connect module?
I was
Yeah,
just
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. You go first.
Okay, so I just want to add something about the competitive edge program. Like Miss Linder just said at the beginning, is that it helps you for your professionals and when you go outside, and not only in the 4 years university, but also your career in the future. Because a lot of corporations around the United States and also worldwide require a very high communications and networking, because in order to work effectively in a team, you gotta learn how to overcome your anxiety, especially in a virtual platform, and to have a better communication. And that is how you will connect the team together. And I think this module is very important. And if you go over it and really well, and it will be beneficial for you in the future.
Awesome. Caitlin, what did you want to add?
I was just going to say, most of us as students have to take a speech class, and this pretty much goes very over that and is very helpful and gives good resources. And I think it's important to talk about this because since we are in the virtual world and people are watching our faces more, it's more important to make sure that you are giving off the right body language, even though we're not in face-to-face.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think sometimes you even have to kind of, I don't want to say act, but I think you know what I mean here, kind of act more to portray that because we are virtual. Because when you're with people in person, I think you can read their body language a little easier because you also see more of their body, right? You can see more if they're this versus, okay, so you can see that, but you feel their energy as well. And you can't always do that in the same way virtually. And so I think you're exactly right. Really being aware of this so you can be more intentional about your facial expression and body language that can be seen, at least I guess from the shoulders up. Then it's going to help you to better connect with your participants in your virtual event. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Dr. Hargis, do you have anything you wanted to add?
So like I dropped it in the chat, but I have resting bee face. I get that a lot. Cause like when I'm intently listening, I'm like, apparently I look really mad. And this may not play well for the students, but they had like this whole section, this whole video about, it was the teacher who for like 5 seconds with no audio. And then they did a study and asked, you know, what you thought about the teacher. And it was the same thing as the people who interacted with that teacher for an entire semester. That's just shocking to somebody like me. But I am intentional. So like when I'm in class face-to-face, I stand at the front of the room very animated as people are coming in because I know that I give off a really rude vibe. And I don't know why. I'm just like, so yeah, I just think it's, every section has something to offer. Like I said, I was trying to get through super quick. And this is actually the section that I got stuck on because the videos were really good. And I just kept going back and I'm like writing books of notes. And so I was like, okay, I can't finish because I'm writing too much. So I just, the section is really good. And keep your videos on. Your faculty, especially, well, and this is the PTK section, so I should say PTK, but when we're doing these virtual engagement, the point is that we can feel like we're still engaged with people. My husband always asks me, he's like, why are you always up there on that computer? I'm like, no, I'm interacting with people. Like, I see people every day. They're just virtual. And so whenever I do meetings like this, I try really hard to put all my videos on because you want to see people. That's what we're craving, interaction. And so I will mute myself again and smile.
No, you're right. I suffer from the same problem, particularly if I'm thinking through something because I'm so concentrated on what I'm thinking about that I forget this. And so people will think that like maybe they pitched an idea at me, say it's my chapter, right? And they're like, we want to do this for fundraising. And I'm like, because I'm thinking it through, not realizing what's on my face. And so at the beginning with the new officer team, they're kind of like, but at the end, they're like, it's just Linder. Like, you know, this is what's happening. So yes, try to be more aware of this. And it's going to, this module will certainly help you with that. All right, collaborate is next. Again, you're going to be, life is just one big group project. It really is. And so communicating and collaborating are tremendously important. And so they're really focused here on that relationship building, how to address conflict, because you have conflict on any team. And so hopefully you want to address that in a positive way so that everybody can grow from it instead of it being a debilitating thing. And so it's going to help you learn some skills there, to some best practices on navigating those conflicts. I will tell you, I really appreciated the feedback portion on this because as a teacher, I give a lot of feedback. It's my job, right? Because as students, you need the feedback so you can learn, right? To do better, to grow, to improve. And so that giving and receiving feedback from a teacher's perspective, I was really happy to see that. And I was reminded of some things, some better ways maybe to approach feedback so that my students can feel good and that I'm giving them feedback with good intentions, right? It's not meant to be like, you suck. It's not what it is. It's like, I'm helping you learn. I don't think you suck. And so it's giving some good things there. But I think from the student side, I will say I wear a student hat as well, because I am working on my dissertation to finish my doctoral degree. Maybe one day I'll actually get that finished. And so when I send in work to my advisor, let me tell you, it comes back ripped apart. And it's sometimes really upsetting to see that, because you put all this work into it, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do here? But it's important to remember that we have a good mindset when we're receiving our feedback, to know that, again, it's coming from a positive place, right? If she didn't care about me learning and growing, she could just be like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, move on with life, right? But taking the time to give that feedback is evidence of the fact that she wants me to learn and grow. And so it's important as students to remember that anytime you're getting feedback, even if your work itself is kind of ripped apart, if you will, and has a lot of marks on it, a lot of feedback, it's not evidence of your value as a person. First and foremost, you've got to remember that. But it's really coming from a positive place. Remember that when we go into Hallmarks, my chapter, they'll tell you the first time when they get that first draft back with all of my comments on it, that they're like, whew, that's kind of brutal. But once we get to the end and we go through a few rounds of that, they're like, okay, now I see why, right? Because it's meant to help them to get better. So I really appreciated the feedback section from both an instructor advisor side and as a student side. I think it had a lot of really important content there. And then, of course, again, another element of diversity about confronting bigotry, because it's important that we confront that if we're going to begin to dismantle any element of the bigotry that we have that's running rampant in our society. Anybody else want to add on the collaborate module? Okay. I'm trying to collaborate. I tend to just be very talky, and so I try to be very intentional about giving others opportunities to speak. All right. Oh, Garrett, did you want to add?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, just because they keep coming up, and I was like, it's always good to mention them multiple times. I think you already have, but again, these diversity matter modules down here are super important. Diversity is something we should all embrace, and it's also that last one, the confronting bigotry one. I always see online a lot of people talk about, like, I don't know how to be an ally. I want to be an ally. It's like, you can start here. These diversity matters modules are really great if you're trying to be supportive of people who have diverse backgrounds, very different from your own, and you're trying to be supportive of them. Those modules are great. If you're looking for a way, like how to figure out being an ally, these are great modules.
No, you're exactly right.
Please pay attention to them.
Yes, no, you exactly right. And like I said, I didn't know, obviously, what was all in competitive edge when I got into it the first time. You're getting the screenshots were my first views of competitive edge. And as I went through there and I saw diversity in each one, I was like, this is exciting. Like, I was so in. My area of expertise is civil rights. And so I was really excited about it. And it's really, really important for the world in which we live today. All right, so the last level is perform. And so this is really focusing on that professionalism that I talked about before, that I think is so important, because you are not going to get the internship, get some scholarships. Some scholarships require interviews. Get the scholarship, get the job, keep those things if you can't demonstrate a certain level of professionalism. And so this was really important to include here. And I really think this was career focused and so valuable. And so you see professionalism in general, adaptability, change is a certainty in life. If you didn't know that before, 2020 should have taught you that by now. But change and the need to adapt to those changes is tremendously important. And so it was good to see that be addressed here. Work ethic, right? The importance of having a good, strong work ethic. I think they did a great job of illustrating that. And then you see in the last kind of diversity section, it focuses on inclusion. So I think this is our shortest of the modules, if memory serves, but no less powerful and important. So I was really excited to see this. But as you've seen through all of them, right? Everything, the little quizzes are locked up until you finish all of the activities. Anybody else want to add here on this perform level? No? Okay. All right, so that is your basic overview of competitive edge. I just want to say that, you know, you've paid for your membership. And when you're paying your dues, sometimes people are like, what did I pay for? This type of stuff. This is what you paid for. You have paid for certainly access to scholarships and things like that, but you've paid for this programming that's being developed to help you grow and to truly gain a competitive edge. It's named aptly, right? It is a very competitive world out there. You're going to be competing for scholarships. You're going to be competing for spots and transfer programs. You're going to be competing for internships. You're going to be competing for jobs. And so doing these things and growing in these areas is important to set yourself apart. It's going to equip you with skills and demonstrate to future employers, advisors, whoever, that you have a focus on learning and growing always. And so it really is tremendously important, and you've already paid for it. You have paid for your membership, and so you have paid for access to this programming. So why not take advantage of it? Get your money's worth out of your membership, if nothing else. And so I really encourage you, if you've not already done Competitive Edge, to please do it. If you did the old version, do the new version. It's just so valuable. I worked on the old version and I liked it, but this is the third revamp of Competitive Edge, if memory serves correctly. And it just gets better every single time. I tell everyone unapologetically that I am the #1 fan of this new Competitive Edge, because that's how strongly I feel that this program is valuable and important to everyone. So I really encourage you to do that, and do it by the 9th so you can get a pin and be recognized at TLC, and that will be awesome. But at this point, I know that there's been some stuff going on in the chat. I can't monitor the chat while I'm talking. I'm not that kind of, it's like me in the waiting room. I'm not that kind of you know, skills. I don't have that skill set in particular. But at this point, if we have any questions, we certainly want to open it up for those questions. And you can just unmute yourself and ask the questions. You don't have to put them in the chat. Anybody have any questions? Nobody this is like class.
So Joshua had a question in the chat, which is a really great question. Should we wait for webinars like these to do the other programs such as Employment Edge, or just continue on with the other programs once we finish Competitive Edge?
That's a great question. No, don't wait. Don't ever wait. Just hop in there. It's really, all of the Edge programs are very user-friendly. It's not really that you have to have like training to understand how to work through them. They're built very well. And so it's very intuitive on how you work through them. And so I say start with Competitive Edge and then just work your way through the others. And they all address different things, but really important. So Transfer Edge, sometimes people look at that and like, it's not that hard to transfer. It is hard to transfer, actually, especially if you are maybe first in your family to go to college and you don't have somebody close to you who can help provide some guidance on that transfer process. It's a lot to manage and navigate that transfer process. And so Transfer Edge will help you with that. And then of course you've got Employment Edge. I really was happy to see Employment Edge be added, because not all of our students are transfer students. Many, many, many of them are. But we have a lot of workforce students who aren't going to transfer to a four-year institution. And so having that Employment Edge to help those workforce students and then help our transfer students later, right? When you finish your bachelor's or maybe master's degree and then you're entering the workforce, you can go back to it, because once you leave the community college, you still have your membership. Your membership is a lifetime membership. And so you can always go in here and do these programs at any time that you need them, or again, revisit them if you want to. And who knows? I mean, by the time you finish your degree, we may have another EDGE program. They're constantly developing in these areas. And while on the one hand, it might seem like this is a lot, I think it's meeting a real need, right? There's a deficit of some development in these various areas. And so it's really good to see that headquarters is listening to what students need and what transfer institutions are saying is needed, what employers are saying is needed, right? And trying to help y'all in those areas. So I say just jump in, and then don't forget Research Edge. Super helpful if you're doing honors and action with your chapter, but even if you're not, so helpful for completing research within your courses. And research is one of those things that you're not born with a gene that tells you how to do academic research. It just doesn't work that way. You have to learn that. And so Research Edge will help you with that. And so I love them all. I'm a big fan.
There's another question that I actually can't answer because I haven't done Transfer Edge, but if you don't know if you're going to transfer, should you attempt Transfer Edge?
Yes. Yes, you absolutely should, because the transfer process itself is can be very complicated when you're navigating a lot of transferring credits and applying for scholarships and meeting those deadlines and what have you. And so if you wait till you know for certain and you're kind of in the thick of it, then you may have needed that help a little earlier, right? But then it's just a lot and it's really overwhelming. So I think if there's even just an inkling possibility that you might transfer, I say go ahead and do it, and that way you have that skill set. Anytime you can grow and learn in an area it's not wasted. There's value in just learning something itself, and so I recommend doing it. Any other questions?
So Joshua says that you said that this is the third version of Competitive Edge. How often are these redone, and how much is usually changed? Is it worth keeping an eye out to do the new versions as they come out? My comment is I didn't do the last one because the last one was really geared towards students and Phi Theta Kappa, and more specifically like developing certain PTK skills. And we have not Competitive Edge, but we have a 5-star program for advisors, which I did. But this one like rocks. And if they're going to update this one, I'll be checking back, because the videos, first of all, I've stolen some of the videos on YouTube so I can use my classes. Just some of the information is like so good. So I make them give presentations, and I'll be using those YouTube videos to help them learn how to do better presentations. So you can update it as often as you want, but I will let Linda speak on to this because I think she has an alumni that is like obsessed with Competitive Edge. So
yes, I do. She is a former chapter president, and she did the OG version. She was actually the first in Texas to complete the original Competitive Edge, and I think 15th in the society. So she was like, she's been here from the beginning. So maybe she's the #1 fan of Competitive Edge, but I don't want to admit that. So I'll still say that I am. And I think that if memory serves, I think Competitive Edge launched around 2011. No. Yeah, probably. I think it's pretty close to that. 2010, 2011, something like that. And this is just now, and I mean just now because this new version launched in September, the third version of it. So they don't revamp it like every year or every 6 months. It's not like that. They may, and I don't know what their intention is. They certainly could go in and maybe add another activity into a section if they thought that there was a need. But I don't foresee a major revamp for several years. I'd say at least 2. So yes, I would go ahead and do it. But when they do revamp it, it's not a secret thing. I'll tell you that. They put it out everywhere that they've revamped it. So people are aware and can hop in there and do the new content. But yeah, Cami, it's the alumna who we were referencing. She did the original and then she did the new version. And I haven't looked, but I can almost guarantee she has already started this new version, because that's how she is. And I promise you, she's gonna come to my house if I don't do something, and she's gonna knock on my door and say, "Where's my pen?" Because it doesn't matter that she left the community college a while ago. It doesn't matter that she's already into her career. She finds this programming so valuable, and so she does it every time it's revamped.
I use it for competitive edge this time around. I'm sorry, I use it for professional development this time around. So in my job, I'm required to do conferences and professional development. It usually costs a lot of money. And so when Linda told me some of the things that were in this competitive edge, I was like, oh, let me see if this is useful. And every section that I complete, I add that to my board report to show them that I'm like up to date on the information and whatnot. So depending on what job you're going into, professional development is very important, and just keeping up. Like they had a section about social media and how to properly do social media in your workplace. And as somebody who in my former career, I would hire people and social media was just kind of coming out. I'm old. We did Facebook searches of what people put on Facebook, and a lot of people didn't know that back then. And so it was really just every section can be used for different things. So
Absolutely. I actually think that's one of the smartest things they did with this particular set of activities, where they were really focusing, because it's helpful to, as a student, as a professional, like it's helpful everywhere where you are in your life. Any other questions?
I
So,
think go ahead.
sorry. Another question was the previous versions were more geared towards certain things. Can we view them, or once they're revamped, they're gone?
So once they're revamped, they are gone. That's how it's been in the past. Again, I can't speak to the future. I don't know what the intention is. So I will tell you, I actually was looking back at the competitive edge completion report, because I can see it for the whole region since I'm the regional coordinator. And I was trying to get, because I wanted to find out what year the first version of competitive edge came out, not rely on my memory in that area. That's why I'm still struggling with that. So I wanted to look up Cami's completion, and I forgot that when they went to the second version, that they just completely wiped everything out. And so it doesn't have, I know it'll be on record at headquarters, but on my report that I can access, it doesn't show the people who completed the first version of competitive edge. That went away. But when they launched this new one, they kept the records, and in our records it says old competitive edge and new competitive edge, and so it shows the completion dates for both of these. I'm hoping they continue. I don't know what the next one will be. New, I don't know. They'll have to come up with some creative labeling there, but I'm hoping they keep that, because it's nice to be able to see that. But the content itself is not accessible. Sorry.
Well, and I think that when they had the first competitive edge, they didn't have the research and the transfer edges.
Correct.
And they didn't have, there's the PTK Connect. And so now I think that they're, from what I can tell from a business perspective, it looks like they're developing the areas. Instead of having it under one heading of competitive edge and then just having a few, they're developing new edge programs that are more specific. So I would think actually the future looks brighter. Like it looks like they're going to be developing more specific, like the advisor one. There wasn't an advisor one when I became an advisor 8 years ago, but now there's an advisor specific one. And so I think they're taking it to heart more of, hey, what am I getting out of my money? And these are specific programs that can develop you in different areas. So
yeah, absolutely. And I love that they're self-paced. Because unlike a class that you may be taking for credit at your college, right, that you know that you have specific deadlines there, otherwise you're going to get a bad grade. That's not the case here. It is completely self-paced. So if your life is just crazy and you're like, I can't do it during a long semester, but I can do it on winter break or whatever, it's great. It's going to be there for you. Or maybe you can just do a little piece at a time. Like I'll do one activity every week. Okay, great. You can do that too. And so it's really designed well for the busy student, which I think everybody is busy. So it helps. What else? Other questions? I always say in class that if there aren't a lot of questions, that means I did a great job.
You did do a great job. I guess a more just a fun question is, did y'all all have like a certain section that y'all liked the most? Yeah,
Perform for me.
perform for you?
Yeah. I'm all about the professionalism one.
I'm not, as you can tell. No, I haven't finished all of them, but Connect was like really good. Well, I guess the problem is that when I finished Think, I was like, that was really good. And then when I finished Grow, I was like, oh no, that was way better. And then I just finished Connect. So I'm like, no, that's the best one. So maybe I will get to perform and be like, no, okay, professionalism's so right. I think the problem is there's just something to learn. I'm one of those lifelong learners. And so every time I did something, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. And like I said, I like to steal this stuff from my class. So if I think it's good enough to bring into my class, I think it's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Personally, my favorite was Grow.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look, there's nothing bad to be said about any of the levels. They were so good. Like when people tell me their favorite, I'm like, yep, I agree. It's great.
For my favorite should be connections and communication, like the small portion over there, because I feel like as an international student, I have learned a lot how to communicate using another language, and it's pretty helpful for everyone, not only me, but that is the portion that I like the most.
Nice. Any other questions?
I don't really have a question, but it is kind of just an in general comment about how to do these things. Because I noticed that, you can finish a module and it'll check it off and it'll be done for you, and you can come back and you can start on the second module, and that's all fine and good. The one thing about it though is if you start a module, make sure you have the time to finish it, because if you go into the module and you get halfway through like a video and you're like, oh, I need to go do something, and you close out of Competitive Edge, you're gonna have to start that module back from the start.
Not the module, but the activity, right? The specific
Yeah,
activity.
the activity. Yeah, like inside the module. Like, so if you click on one of those things and it pulls up the learning stuff and it starts a video and you watch the video and then you answer a question. Yeah, so like if you're working on like the work ethic activity and you click on it and you start working on it and you don't finish it out, you don't get to the very last page and click complete, it's gonna start you over when you click on it again. So make sure that you have that like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on the videos that are in it, to just get it done, click the complete button, and then go do whatever you need to do.
Absolutely.
I like it also. I wish I could do this in my class. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm not tech savvy, but you can't just skip a video. You have to actually read the whole video so you can hit the thing on the next, which I thought was funny because I got to an area and I'm like, I know how to do presentations, like I teach. And I tried to get past it and it was like, no, you got to watch the video. And I was like, oh, I learned something new. So it was.
That is true.
Pretty good that I
there
watched
are
the video.
workarounds on that. You do have to go through it. I will tell you that sometimes, I will say for me personally, these were shorter, so it didn't bug me as much, but we always have to do these annual course things for like on different privacy laws, like FERPA and things like that, right? We have to do that at our institutions. And they're usually long. They're like an hour long, each one of those videos. And I read much faster than a lot of people. And so when I'm, when it has those things where it's like doing the text and it's going really slow, I'm like, when it's an hour, like I just want to skip ahead. Like I've already read it and it's reading along and it's only like at the halfway point and I'm like, I'm done. What is happening? And so sometimes that kind of thing can be frustrating for me, but because these are shorter, I didn't get that level of frustration. But I promise you, if they were an hour, I would have been losing my mind, because I just can't. I can't have it talk to me for an hour and me not be able to move on when I've already finished the reading of it. So yeah, but I'm really glad that you pointed that out, Garrett. Thank you. I forgot to include that. You can't stop you can stop in the middle of activity, but you get to do it again. So complete all of work ethic. And then if you have to go, do whatever, cook dinner, what have you, do it at that point. Otherwise, just know you'll have to start that particular activity over.
I noticed even with those videos, I went to the next little spot after the video and thought, well, I'll go back and scan that video real quick because about something it had asked in that next question. And you have to completely rewatch it. You can't just scan through that spot in that video either.
It doesn't let you. So yeah, I would say always make sure before you open one that you have a good 15 minutes, because you're right, it's about 15. I think there were a couple of them that went to 20, but I'd make sure you have a 15-minute window where you know that you can knock this one out so you just don't have to start it over. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, well then we'll go ahead and stop there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. If you have not completed Competitive Edge, I hope that you feel a little better and more excited about doing this programming. It's so valuable. And again, if you complete by October 9th, then you'll be recognized at TLC and you will get your pin mailed to you. I really would love it if I got to mail out, part of me wouldn't, but the regional coordinator side of me would really love it if I got to mail out 100 pins after TLC. The person who has to sit here and actually handwrite all those envelopes won't like it, but the regional coordinator side of me would love it, because I really want to get those pins out to everyone and recognize all of this learning that's taking place in the Texas region. Go ahead.
You said y'all do just the competitive, or is it all of them that y'all do?
We only award the pins for
that, like the research.
No.
Well, do you do the research edge or?
No, that's what I'm saying. We only award the pins for Competitive Edge.
Sure.
You can purchase the others as you complete them if you want to, but the Texas region only buys the Competitive Edge ones.
Okay.
Yeah. So keep your eye on our social media. This is the last Competitive Edge workshop we're doing for this year. We probably will do some in the spring, but the last one for this year. And we also have a lot of other workshops going on. So please make sure that you're following us on the Texas Region Facebook, the Texas Region Instagram. If you're an OG and got Twitter, we're there too. And so you can follow us and keep up with us there. And attend a lot of these workshops. We've got a lot of great ones coming up, some very important for your chapters like recruitment and fundraising. Although I will tell you, fundraising can be applicable in other areas. Maybe you work with other organizations, and so the fundraising tips will help you there. It doesn't just have to be Phi Theta Kappa. But we also have things like time management, and looking forward to next year, we're going to have one at the end of the month that the regional officers will present about running for regional office and international office. And so we've got a lot of great programming coming up, and we just need you guys to come and learn all the things. So please keep up with what's going on our social media, and make sure that you get to take advantage of all of this wonderful programming that we're developing. That sounded a little egotistical, but that's okay. We're developing good programming, so I feel good about it. Didn't mean for that to come out that way, but I guess part of me did. We're Texas, it's okay. All right, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it, and y'all have a great Saturday.